that. Yay, first Friday monthly optional Zoom of 2022. I'm so glad to see you all here. A couple of quick introductions because a couple faces you might not know on the screen. Joanna, who's Monhegan, you know Joanna. Tara has come to our meetings before, but she's new director of Maine Preservation and an advisory council, and someone that is going to share some information with us this morning. And then Carrie Tyson, who has been working on AmeriCorps with our fellows. So some of you may know him from that hat, but he also is a new advisory council member starting in January. And we are very excited to have him. If any of you were in the Kennebec Valley region, he was also at KVCOG before Portland downtown. So not to take away your own personal introductions, but Tara is here today to talk to us about Jane's Walk. So I'm really excited that you guys are all here. I have a couple quick announcements. Let's see. I wish that, whoops, let me let Michael in. Great. And just checking on my audio based on my workaround IT issue, a thumbs up that I'm coming through okay. Great, thank you. Joanna, you'll appreciate that was a good hour yesterday afternoon figuring this out, but I'm working. Great, Amy, thanks for bringing Chloe in. Chloe is your AmeriCorps fellow. Hi, Chloe. And Christina, how you doing? Great. Christina, are you allowed to share that Skowhegan news? That's one of the announcements I wanted to make today about your spring event happening in downtown. Is that public?
I haven't been told not to.
All right, then share away.
Right now?
Sure.
Okay. We are excited to be hosting the Build Maine conference in Skowhegan on June 8th and 9th this year. Yay. So
it's the first time Build Maine has been out of the Lewiston Auburn area, right?
As far as I know, yeah, in my tenure.
This is really exciting. And I know some of you have been to Build Maine, but to think of that expertise coming to Skowhegan, I just think is such a great opportunity. And we are one of the micro little sponsors of that event, but you'll be hearing more about it. But please put June 8th and 9th on your calendars. Thanks, Christina. And then as a reminder, we have our own big event coming up, as you know, January 27th. No charge to register for you, your committees, your boards, 3 great awards, 3 quick little micro conversations about 3 different Main Street topics that Delilah, Amanda, and Amy are going to be running. And then, of course, we always are going to have, we'll be celebrating our Main Street Fellows who are in place, Chloe, and then I'm forgetting the name of the person in Biddeford, Delilah. Is that, or Joanna, help me, who's the second Main Street
Megan?
Fellow? Megan, thank you. So we will be having a little celebration of that, and Yellow will be joining us for some reflections, and then I will be also having a moment of reflection. So it's a packed-filled 90 minutes. Please register, and Joanna, I'm sure, will put the registration in the chat for you to share about. So, and Carrie, you just registered, thank you. So the structure for this morning with this great crowd is to turn it over to Tara with maybe a little backup from Carrie if needed, but basically Tara is going to tell you about Jane's Walk. And as I said in my email, Joanna also has amazing experience with Jane's Walk in a former life working with Tara. We are excited to be having Jane's Walk in the state of Maine. We are eagerly looking for, 3 of our communities, maybe. The bar is low, but we would love to have some of you participate. Show of hands, who knows what Jane's Walk is? Anybody? Carrie? Sarah. Oh, hi, Sarah Hansen. Okay, but none of our communities do. So this is going to be interesting. So Tara, I'll turn it over to you. Are you sharing any slides? Do you need to do
Yes,
that?
but it looks like I have permission already, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Go for it.
And before I do want to acknowledge that, I mean, I came in thinking that this was something that I wanted to, kind of, it was already existing a little bit in Maine, but to amplify and promote given my experience. But I saw Carrie at Smartinis this summer wearing his Jane Jacobs pin, and we got to talking. And so we've sort of been scheming ever since. So want to acknowledge his kind of lighting the fire under this idea. So with that, let me share my screen. Just for starters, Maine preservation. I don't know how many of you know really what we're up to. So I just wanted to just give a quick overview of the fact that we offer some technical assistance through our field services, financial support through some sub-granting programs. We hold easements. We help with tax credit projects. We also market and help to sell historic properties. We have educational programs, and then we also do advocacy work at the local, state, and federal level. So I guess I have to scroll. So here we are, Jane's Walk, NYC in 2021. Sorry, gotta move my screens around a little bit here so I can. So before coming to Maine Preservation, as Anne said, I worked at the Municipal Art Society of New York, which is the New York City organizer of the Jane's Walk Festival. Jane's Walk is a global festival of walking conversations inspired by the urban activist Jane Jacobs. New York City's program started in 2011 with just a handful of walks. And by last year, we had more than 300 walks happening across the 5 boroughs with, as far as we could count, because we actually don't really require registration, we had at least 6,000 humans out on the street learning about communities. And in the virtual and digital version, we had tens of thousands more participating. So started real small, got real big. And I'm hoping that we can see some of that growth and opportunity here in Maine. So if you don't know, Jane Jacobs was an activist and writer known for galvanizing New Yorkers to fight against Robert Moses's plan to build an expressway through Greenwich Village. She was successful. She wrote many books. She was a journalist, and she was really thoughtful about what she observed happening around her. She talked about sort of the sidewalk ballet on the street, those chance encounters and moments of opportunity being so important to communities and to healthy, thriving communities. And so I think that that's where it's really relevant for you all as downtown to be able to celebrate some of her principles. So, she talked about, eyes on the street, the fact, low rise, shopkeepers, providing safety for communities because they're sort of watching what's happening out on the street. She really prized old buildings. So, there's way more to learn about her and better experts than I, but this was something that we worked on with a online news outlet celebrating her 100th birthday, which was a few years ago. She passed away in 2006. But more than anything, she really believed in community engagement and the power of individuals to shape the places that they live. And her principles of planning and participation and engagement have influenced the ways communities plan their cities all across the globe. And so Jane's Walk as a festival takes place in more than 200 cities around the world. And so just a couple of examples from New York. This is a walk that I went on. This is Sonny Hendry, who's from Queens. He was really interested in hip hop. And so he led a walk in Times Square about, it was called hold on, I need to make sure I got the title right because it was great. Hip hop nightclubs in the 1980s, fly, fresh, wild, and bold. And he brought a boombox and, you know, stopped us outside each nightclub. Either it was maybe still there or maybe it wasn't, played some music from some important moment in hip hop history. And the important thing about it is that Jane's Walk is not meant to be a formal tour led by an expert. Anybody can lead a walk. You don't have to have done a ton of research, you know, maybe just talk about your enthusiasm for the topic and a little bit about what you know about it, and then encourage conversation with the participants. So on this walk, there were a couple of ladies who talked about their experiences at those nightclubs. And they'd be like, you know, I was there the night that Grandmaster Flash, you know, did whatever. And like, it was just a really fun conversation where he was learning so much from the people who experienced it, because he was significantly younger. And so he was, you know, kind of learning from reading and watching videos, but like these women had actually experienced that time. And it was a great conversation. Another popular one every year is Gay Bars That Are Gone, which is a tour through Greenwich Village where literally hundreds of people go and kind of trace the history of the gay bars that existed in that community over time. And they, you know, use sidewalk chalk to mark those locations and kind of have a moment again of sharing where a lot of these people, young and old, have had personal experiences in those places. And it's just a really kind of it's solemn, but also celebration of that history of place in the city. And then finally, and this is a special shout out to Joanna, this was one of my favorite walks ever that she helped to make happen. These are students from Medgar Evers College, which is part of the, is a community college in the city. And these students, instead of doing a class paper, they actually led a Jane's Walk and got credit for that. And so they each researched a little snippet. Because it's a community college, many of the students, you know, lived and grew up in the neighborhood. The topic was the African-American history in Crown Heights. And, you know, one of the students got to share, you know, she lives in an apartment building, which is the building that actually replaced Ebbets Field where the Dodgers played. And she took us into the lobby of that building and talked about what it's like, you know, growing up in this place that is kind of notorious for actually, you know, removing some history. But it was a really, really great, interesting and exciting walk to participate in. And the kids had a really great time. And they only did it because Joanna went and presented to their class. So that's kind of it quickly. I have some resources that I can share that we put together at MAS that's, you know, focused on New York City. I can try to cull it down to the more important points for good tips on how to host, kind of create a host committee for your city. And then, you know, also just straight up tips on how to lead a walk, how to promote it. But the idea is the more that starts happening, you know, we'll use a hashtag that it connects people to be aware of this one weekend happening every year. And I forgot to mention that it's the first weekend in May every year in honor of Jane Jacobs' birthday, which was May 4th. So this year, I think it's the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And year after year, when everyone knows that Jane's Walk is happening, you start looking out for those walks and get excited and, you know, plan your weekend around all of these free walking conversations. So I will stop sharing and answer any questions and put a couple links in the chat.
That was awesome, Tara. Okay. 300 walks and 6,000 participants in New York. That's crazy.
And that's the ones that we could count because
yeah.
registration is not required. People can just show up.
That's great. Delilah put in, this sounds really cool. That's what I was going to ask you guys. What do you think about this? First weekend in May. It is literally anyone can lead the tours. It does not have to be a typical Winterfest, Amanda. It doesn't have to be an event like that. I think I just want to throw it out to everybody and say, what do you think? Anybody maybe think this would be something fun to offer in your downtown that weekend? Delilah's a yes. I see a couple nodding heads. I mean, it's the sky's the limit on creativity, that's for sure. And I don't think it has to take a great deal of communication, not communication, a great deal of effort. I think it can be as low key as you want. I mean, if a downtown, let me just throw this out to Carrie, Sarah, and Tara, who's been our working group on this. If a downtown organization had 3 tours over the weekend or something, is that a reasonable way to play?
Yeah, I think our goal is here in Portland, which has happened years ago, but hasn't happened in quite some time, and that's glad to be having this conversation. 5 is, I would say, a huge success for us. If we get 5, we're going to issue a call for volunteers to kind of host these informal ones. I don't know, somewhere late February, early March, something like that. We've got a handful of partner groups that we're going to soon be working with: Portland Trails, Friends of Congress Square Park, Greater Portland Landmarks, a variety of other groups, Portland Society for Architecture, that we're just hoping everyone could take one on. And you know, like my friend CJ at Congress Square Park, he's already planning to host one about how did he describe it? The gargoyles of downtown or something like that. That you just walk around and look for, you know, these places that you might not notice. I mean, it's that simple. I'm doing one on the surface parking lots, and you know, imagine places here is what I'm calling it, and talk about both the history and the future. So simple stuff. Maybe we'll end at a bar. I don't know.
I'll also share, you know, one of the ones I've always dreamed of doing, and maybe I'll try to do it this year, is doing a Jane's Run. So I have a friend who is also a preservationist, and he and I would go on runs together, and sometimes we would run toward some, you know, he has a blog about a modern mid-century mundane is what it's called. So really boring mid-century buildings. And so sometimes we'd want to like go for a run so that he could go take a photo of a certain building. And like along the way, we would like, you know, kind of ogle the buildings. And so I was thinking about doing something like that for Jane's Walk. But again, it's really not, it can be a more formal tour. So like it can be something that's kind of already in the books for you, that you know, have a local historian who knows a lot, or you yourself know a lot about your downtown. But it can also be really anything that you want it to be. I think the important things are that it's free, that it has some kind of interactivity and engagement amongst the participants. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, Michael, do you think any of the UMA students would have something fun to think about in downtown Augusta? Or, I don't know, others of you that, I mean, Deb, obviously Bowdoin. I was just thinking of other groups, other partners to engage. As Carrie was saying, you know, he's not doing all the work. He's reaching out to partners that may have an idea and want to talk about something. Deb.
We have a really active Paget Scott history society that conducts walking tours of the downtown all summer long, which is absolutely great. And obviously the leaders, the conductor of the tour is very, very knowledgeable. So I think if we're going to do anything, we need to know what we're doing, so we can answer questions. You know, it sounds like it's not going to take a lot of work until you actually get into the weeds and try to figure out something in order to create a meaningful experience for those folks who do sign up. Because yeah, I can walk the streets with anybody and I would love to do that, but unless I have some sort of a theme, or I could turn this into a march instead of a walk and start bitching about sidewalks and trees. Is that what I want to do? I could probably get a huge crowd behind me, But you know, I'm assuming that this is supposed to be something fun, something interactive, something very positive. So I have to think a lot about this one.
I'll give an example of something that was maybe a little less fun, but certainly was interactive and exciting, which was that there was a proposal for a light rail system between Brooklyn and Queens that a group that was proponent of that wanted to walk a length of this proposal. And basically there wound up, and so that was their Jane's Walk. There was a counter Jane's Walk, which was a protest of that. Because the communities didn't really want it. So there is, you know, a lot of flexibility and a lot of creativity about what it can be. And again, you know, it's really, it's wide open. So I think that, you know, if you want to do a march and do some bitching, I think that that's totally fair game from Jane Jacobs' perspective.
I just wanted to add on the creativity side, another example. I think some of my favorite Jane's Walks were actually led by artists because they have really just interesting ways of looking and thinking about communities. And another one I helped organize in New York, I think, Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the longest Jane's Walk ever, going down the full length of Flatbush Avenue from Dumbo out to Dead Horse Bay. It was 13 miles, and we led it in 3 different sections, and I was the only one that actually did all 3 sections with the artist. Everybody else kind of dipped in here and there, but he was a found objects artist, and so as we did this walk, he essentially stopped to talk about things that he had found and incorporated into artwork in different places and how they were connected to the history of that place. So it really can be, you know, fun and light and interesting and creative in terms of the approach, in addition to a lot of great Jane's Walks run by historians, of course. We also had a couple of bike rides that were Jane's Walks, so throwing that out too.
There was a couple years ago, there was a Jane's Dog Walk also, which was fun.
Yeah.
And Joanna, I think the Flatbush one was overtaken by a walk that was the full length of Manhattan. So
Wow.
sorry.
And Bill,
Challenge accepted.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. Trail connectivity, you know, I think there's youth. And Bill just put up a sticker. You want to throw it in and it's, I don't know if you can see it. It says walk with your banker. So that was a program that was done in Rockland, and that guy on the sticker was the president of the Main Street organization at the time. And it's a slightly different purpose, but I think it could be merged into a Jane's Walk. He would just walk the Main Street with anyone that wanted to join him to talk about downtown issues. So it had a kind of downtown engagement purpose. But I'm thinking, Bill, could the banker or the president of the Main Street just lead a walk talking about, you know, projects that have been done, change? I mean, like Tara's been saying, it's really like meant to be creative, and any possibilities exist. So thanks for sharing that, Bill. Any other ideas, questions? Anybody interested beside Delilah maybe of participating? Without it, you know, sometimes early May, you don't have stuff going on. It's still kind of not the high season. You can think about it.
So just to be clear, participating could include you all leading walks, or it could include you all just putting the word out to see if there were other folks in your communities that were interested, right, Anne? Or are we looking specifically for the directors to lead walks?
No. Anybody, any partner. Carrie said he's best case scenario is 5 in Portland, and that's why I threw out the number 3 in a Main Street community, is like maybe it's only 1, and that's okay. I think we just ideally would like to see if we could get 3 Main Street or affiliate organizations to participate in this inaugural year of Jane's Walk. Our little coordinating group, which consists of Tara, Carrie, Sarah Hansen, Joanna, and me and CJ from Friends of Congress Square are going to help figure out how to kind of promote it statewide. But this isn't meant to be a big lift. It's to dip your toe into Jane Jacobs. Delilah, you were going to say something.
Just that I've heard of Jane Jacobs a few times over the years, and I kind of like the opportunity of learning more about her. And then I was just picturing, we could use Main Street Maine as a platform to share, like, how Thierry does kind of combined articles, like here's your 10 or 12 or 15 walks happening in a Main Street community this coming week, something like that. So I think in Biddeford there'd be somebody who wants to lead this, even if it isn't me. There's some artist or historic preservation, Biddeford Historical Society or something. So I intend to do it as effortlessly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So for learning more about Jane Jacobs, there's a documentary that came out a couple of years ago called Citizen Jane, which is a really great and easy primer. I think it's on Hulu. And I was just searching to see if I could find a quick link, but I'll keep working on that.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say, just in terms like the New York City's program grew over time to be as large as it is. The real benefit that participants, I think, all of our partners, MAS didn't do it by itself. There were a lot of individuals, but it was also a lot of smaller local groups who really saw the value that the promotion that comes from everyone coordinating something at the same time. And so, at this point now, there is a couple, and Joanna, do you remember? I think they're from Hawaii. They come to New York every year for Jane's Walk weekend because they get to look at this roster of really fun, free things to do all over the city. So it's become, I think, just a great marketing tool for all of those individuals and for those neighborhood groups to be in the same pool together. And so MAS at this point has a dedicated website for this that draws all those eyes. So those 6,000 plus however many those are people who've registered, but many more people actually show up, and many more people are just scrolling the pages and looking at who's there. So there's a tremendous opportunity at the end of the day to be raising awareness about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'll just add, well, Abby Levin also has shared that she has tried 3 times to go to Jane's Walk in New York. So she also saw it as a destination, and each time, unfortunately, something interfered. But I'm also remembering just the kinds of places that we advertised once the festival grew to a certain size, it would appear in Time Out. We had subway ads, we advertised on WNYC, the public radio station. And it really, I think, just expanded our reach hugely, right, beyond just the, in this case, it would be the kind of usual suspects of downtown engaged folks. In MAS's case, it was, beyond the usual kind of land use advocacy, historic preservation crowd. So in terms of just an engagement opportunity, and it appeals to so many different kinds of people.
I'll add to the gay bars that are gone actually had a full write-up in the New York Times, which I'll look for too. But so it really does draw a lot of people, that, like Joanna said, the unusual suspects into the work that everyone is doing, which is great.
I think that's the huge secondary benefit for you guys thinking about this, is you are going to engage potential different audience, new partners, and this kind of really creative look at your downtown. So I think it's really cool. I hope you guys will consider it, and we'll develop some more formal communication from the planning group and from MDC, just to be like, who's in? A couple things in the chat. Michael referenced the actual very famous The Death and Life of Great American Cities book. And also we will get you the link to Citizen Jane. And then Amy mentioned Eat, Drink, Lucky, which of course is an amazing online platform. It would be a great position to have this in the Lucky section, I think, right? when it's anybody know what Eat Drink Lucky is before I ramble on? Yeah, it's a small little digital platform that comes out daily with something yummy to eat, something yummy to drink, and something happening statewide. And I've forwarded it to a few of you when things happen that are in your communities, because it's a real cachet thing to be listed in. Okay, any last questions for Tara, Carrie, or Sarah before they are welcome to not stay for our second bit, or you're welcome to stay. And hi, Karen Tucker. Thanks for joining us this morning. So, and the link to Citizen Jane is in the chat as well. So, and we'll send you the chat.
Free on
after.
Hulu, but it's also paid. Like you can rent it on Amazon and a
Great.
bunch of other places.
Thanks for kicking us off with this idea for May 6th through the 8th. Great. Anything else? Great. Okay. So the second half, the last 25 minutes here, is informal things you want to throw out, and no formal agenda or speakers. We just wanted to talk about Jane's Walk, and I've covered my 2 announcements, Skowhegan Build Maine and our awards. So are there any other announcements this morning, questions, or things that you want to throw out to the group? We have assessments coming up. Joanna sent out the material to the Main Street directors yesterday with your date, and your teams are forming by Christina. And let me see, we are hoping to have our Main Street directors retreat in person in Bath by Tara. And I'm trying to think, Joanna, what else do we have coming up? We have a full slate of webinars and a couple institutes coming up in the year.
There is, I need to get those all listed. I'm a little distracted by the end of the year event, but
Yep.
I'll be publishing the at least the first half of the year's programs in the next week or two. The one I can share now that's definitely confirmed in terms of a date is March 3rd will be the board training with MAMP that is scheduled from November. So that's a good opportunity if you have board members that haven't had board training from us yet. That's a good date to remember.
Yes, we are partnering with MAMP, and I really do hope new or old, any of your board or committee members will attend that. It's primarily for those of you that have a board structure, and then we'll have a later training in the year on more of the 4-point approach, which is also for boards and committees. But this is with MAMP, and we're really excited about that partnership. Deb.
A couple of things. Are the assessments going to be done virtually?
We are currently leaving that up to the individual teams and directors to make that determination. I can tell you that MDF, or at least, well, the downtown center, we are not traveling. We did our startup visit with Monson yesterday virtually. That was a big change, and a meeting next week with Bucksport that was supposed to be important in person. We have shifted to online. So at the moment we are not, but we, you know, it's a little further in February. I think it should be what people are comfortable with. Joanna, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just thanks for bringing it up, Deb. And I did want to just take the opportunity to have a little conversation about this if folks are ready, because, you know, they're still about a month out for a lot of folks, but that's not that long. And I think for scheduling, particularly for the advisory council members that are signing up, and for you guys as peer assessors, it is a different ask if you have to plan for 3 hours plus travel time versus 2 hours for a virtual meeting. So I just want to get a sense, is there anyone who is still really thinking they would prefer in person, or might try to do in person at this stage? Michael?
I'd prefer in person, just my preference.
So, things being as they are right now, you would, if your assessment team was comfortable, you would host them in person. Okay, so there's at least two. So we'll continue to leave that option open then. I was just thinking, if no one was interested in person, I could just kind of close that loop, but I can add a field to the spreadsheet too for folks just to add what they're thinking currently in terms of virtual or in person. And I think that'll help the advisory council members make their choices too. And we're with them next Wednesday. So that's going to be a good opportunity for me to pull up the schedule and try to fill any remaining holes.
You're muted, Anne. I'm assuming you said Deb. Have you heard anything about the national conference in Richmond? I noticed registration's not open yet. Is it going to happen? I lost money on airline tickets last time around.
No
I didn't
way.
get it from Expedia. So I want to just sort of make sure that if it's a go, I'm all on board. But if it's not, I'm going to put off making arrangements. Hotels easy, but isn't.
So at this point, the conference is happening in person. I, oddly enough, am actually on a planning committee for the coordinators meetings. And they are at this point planning for in-person. There doesn't seem to be any indication. Amanda had asked me this question last week, any indication that it would go virtual. So they're just going in person. The registration should be coming out, Deb, in the next week. The staff at National mentioned to me, I don't know, in the last couple of days that they're madly working on the registration materials. So you should see them coming out. So I guess we all plan for in-person, and I can't believe you lost money. I thought that COVID would allow, all sorts of reimbursement on travel plans. I'm sorry that happened.
Never book with Expedia again, ever.
Fair enough. But great question. Richmond should be lovely in the spring. And that's where we are headed and planning on going. There are some organizations among coordinating programs that are in state agencies, and travel has been basically canceled for, 2022 kind of. I mean, there are people that don't have travel budgets. I mean, I don't know that it'll be as big a conference as it has been in years past, because there does seem to be some rub with communities able to make it or not. Amanda.
Is there like a pull the plug date that we can pull? Like Heritage Days, I'm planning it, but I mean, if we get a 400th pandemic in here, we have to have a
Right. So when the registration materials come out, I certainly hope it will have that information that you're asking for. If I don't see it, I will absolutely ask National about that, tease that out a little bit more for you guys. Other questions, comments, things you want to throw out to the group today?
What are the dates for the conference, the national?
Gonna have to look, Amy. Let me see.
I think it's May 16 to 18.
Oh yeah, right. Thank you, Delilah, for being on top of that. May 16th to the 18th. It's like a Monday through a Wednesday. I believe I have to go on like the 13th or something, which always makes for a very long time to be away for me. Sarah's shaking her head. She remembers the days of being a coordinator. Anybody been to Richmond before? I have once. It's a really beautiful city. Bill's been there. Great. Okay, so we're are nuts. So I don't know about you guys.
You cut out there for a minute.
I see that. My IT fix is not perfect. Basically, last call for anything that you want to throw out this morning. Melissa.
I just have, it's totally unrelated to anything, but Gardner got some money to do some sidewalk improvements. And we're not going to be doing the work for another year or two, but there'll be a planning committee and the debate is up for brick or no brick. So if anybody has experience or knows a good, like our sidewalks are hazardous and they are bricks. They were put in the 80s, I think early 80, like 1980. No maintenance was done and there are tripping hazards everywhere. So everybody, well, we're like 50-50 on safety versus maintenance. And so if anybody has any supporting or anti-material on bricks, please let me know.
Melissa, the best sidewalks I ever saw were in Concord, New Hampshire. They had brick, they had brick and they also had granite, but they used the brick just on the sides of the sidewalk and it looked really attractive. But at the same time, it wasn't a tripping hazard in the winter. Because you had the regular
Interesting.
granite.
They did
So
that at one of the
that.
corners in the
Yep.
recent bridge work here in Gardner.
Our design committee actually took a field trip to Concord, and Michael, you're absolutely right. They did a great job. And we've been working on a streetscape redesign project for the last 3 years with the town. And I sat on that committee and it was that hybrid, what we called it, the combination of brick and granite or concrete or whatever it may be, and made that proposal and got thrown out because we had such a strong advocate in town who'd been walking around to all the businesses carrying bricks, advocating for all brick, which is much more expensive. I was in Freeport over the weekend, like God forbid you park in an area where you have to go downhill because you go fall on your ass for sure. So that was the biggest controversy. And as a result, the project has been delayed by at least a couple of years because the council can't make a decision on whether or not to go all brick or hybrid.
Wow. Carrie or Sarah, obviously Portland has a lot of historic brick areas as well. Do either of you have anything to share on this since you're here?
I can tell you our maintenance budget for that is pretty healthy. And they do a pretty good job. It's been harder in recent years with labor challenges, et cetera, but they're extraordinary. I mean, I think it's part and parcel of what draws people here to some degree, but.
Yeah, it's pricey. Public Works, I think, hates it. It's tough. I mean, there are ways to do it that are, I think, a little better, but if you're working with historic bricks, it's a little dicier. So I don't know if there's a good answer there. Yeah.
I can build off of what both of them said. I know Portland has, they're using a newer brick that has grip on it now. And they also, they reconstruct the sidewalk now. They dig down, they redo the foundation so that the roots that grow are removed, for better or for worse. But like, you don't get all these upheavals in the new, they've come up with a new way to do brick sidewalks that aren't quite as treacherous as how they used to do it, which was just to lay it on top. So if you're interested in that, it's worth looking into. I think they've reconstructed it.
It's great. Bill.
Yeah. Bath had a miserable experience with brick sidewalks and finally tore them up, but then went back and bricked them in again with the right approach. I would suggest to Melissa that she talk to Lee Liner, who is our Public Works Administrator in Bath, and you'll get the whole story on what not to do and what to do with brick sidewalks.
And in Hollowell, in the recent redo of the Main Street,
Yes.
Water Street, they put down bricks and they did it. I watched the whole process because this is always a big controversy, and having just moved from Gardner, I knew, what that conversation had been. But they put down asphalt underneath it, and then they put sand, and then they put the bricks. So the a lot of the problems are taken care of, and the bricks here so far, it's just been a couple years, but they are solid, they are flat and good. So I do agree there's new techniques that are being used now that aren't the old 1980s version, 40-year-old. They've learned how to do it better.
Great. Thanks, Karen, for adding that. I forgot. Of course, that Hollowell sidewalk project was done when that big Down with the Crown project. Melissa, keep in touch if you have more questions as you kind of get into that work. It sounds like it's been controversial in Brunswick, so hopefully you can lay out some good ideas in Gardner that people will be amenable to.
And congratulations to Johnson Hall for $500,000 anonymous gift with masking, and that's so fabulous.
Right. That closes the gap for them, doesn't it, Melissa? That's the last piece.
Well, it's close. With construction costs always increasing, there's always more to add, but yeah, they're very close. They're going to start. They're going to start anyway in April. So
yeah, great. Other questions this morning or topics? That was a good one, Melissa. And we did have a lot of brick expertise in the room. Great. Christina?
Sorry if I missed this, if you just talked about this, but is the director's retreat still March 24th and 25th in Bath? Or is that kind of TBD?
Yes. I sent an email last week to all the directors with like 6 different things, and I think that was one of the items. I'm like, wait, did I send it? Were you sick that day? I'm not sure. Yes, right, Joanna, that's the date we have. I'm just having her double check. Amanda knows it's in Bath.
I do, I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's on my calendar. So I just wanted to make sure that was still.
It's still the plan. I kind of can't make the call of in-person hybrid. I need a little more comfort in that. But yes, that's the plan. Please keep it on your calendar.
Okay.
Thanks. Anything else this morning? Let me just double check the chat. Thank you, Joanna. And Delilah said, Richmond has lots of successful work around affordable housing. Yeah, that would be great to see. Thanks for that reminder, because remember they have, sometimes they have they will have tours, and I'm hoping one of them is on that topic because I would really like to go. Great.
I think that's one of the themes of the conference.
Oh yeah.
On housing. So I bet they will.
Clearly you were ahead of me. Okay. Great. Well, I don't want to hold. Yes,
sorry,
Christina.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
We had a housing assessment done by Jeff Levine of Levine Planning Strategies. He also did one for Augusta. Anyway, he's giving a presentation via Zoom on January 24th at 4:30 p.m. And I will drop into the chat right now the link if anyone would like to join us.
Yeah, thanks for that. I will definitely be there. And I know Maggie Drummond Ball's coming from Maine Community Foundation. I think Robert O'Brien is also coming from our staff. We're all really interested to see Jeff's findings and think about ways to replicate that housing study, which is a lot related to barriers, right, Christina? Barriers for redevelopment, of replicating that work in some of your communities. So yes, it's really an important summary of his work. So thanks for inviting us.
What was the time and date on that again?
January 24th at 4:30.
in the Hollowell Heart and Soul thing that we're doing right now, that is just about everybody says that affordable housing, big concern.
Yeah, big concern and also big opportunity. You know, what do we do with these what do we do with the second, third, and fourth stories of buildings that are underutilized? And is there an opportunity as well? So yes, important work. Great. Anything else, anybody? Okay. Hearing none, I think we will wrap our optional Friday Zoom. Thanks for being such a great crowd here this morning. It was great to see you all, even on little screens. And keep in touch. Joanna and I are willing to get you what you need. Just let us know. And you'll be hearing from us. I think that's it. We'll see you on the 27th for our awards.
Thanks.
Great. Bye, guys.